A vision without a strategy is just a daydream. And so many of us have these visions of like what we want to do financially. And so what we need to do is follow that up with a really good plan. So point number 1 in your listening guides, make a plan to be a good steward of your money. Make a plan to be a good steward of your money. Paul says in verse 11, finish what you started, so that your readiness in desiring it may be matched by your completing it out of what you have. So we want to make a plan to be a good steward of our money. And that good stewardship is a really simple process. It actually looks like this: give, save, and live on the rest. Give, save, and live on the rest. If you're following along in your worship guide, that'll be just right underneath point 1. We want to give, we want to save, and then we want to live on the rest. Now, a lot of us have tried to spend, and hope somebody else is generous. Or spend, maybe save, and hope there's something for the rest. But we want to live, we want to give, we want to save, and then we want to live on the rest. Good stewardship says God first, future second, and lifestyle third. When we get those in order, peace begins to show up. Now here's what I want to tell you. I said peace specifically for a reason. Because a lot of times we associate something with giving. We assume that if we give, God will bless, and he does. But God doesn't always bless the way we expect him to bless. Otherwise, the disciples in the scriptures would have been the most rich and influential people in scriptures. God often provides peace when we live this way. God often provides joy when we live this way. Occasionally, God does provide financial blessings, but whether he does or not, God provides peace and joy for us in ways that we cannot comprehend when we make a plan to be a good steward of our money. Number 2, in your listening guides, make a plan to be generous with your money. Make a plan to be generous with your money. Make a plan to be generous with your money. When we're generous, 3 things happen. 3 things happen. Number 1, we're freed from the grip of greed. Selfish thinking about money leads to selfish living everywhere. And greed releases that hold on us. Now, a lot of Christians, what we think is, you know what? I'll hold on to my money and I'll be generous in all the other ways. I'll be generous with compliments. I'll be generous with words of affirmation. I'll be generous with my time. I'll be generous in all the other ways. But in reality, what happens with our finances is it holds this grip on us, and we are not as generous in all the other ways as we think we are. Because for some reason, money holds this absolute tight grip on us. So when we're generous to others, whether it's this location or not, when we're generous to others, it releases that grip that greed holds onto us. Greed holds us tightly, and when we begin to give money away, we realize something. We realize that God can do more with our less than we can do with our more. We begin to trust God more than we trust ourselves, which is ironic because we trust God with our souls, but we often don't trust him with today. So it releases a grip on us, but then others are also blessed. Selflessness with money leads to strengthening others, and our identity is realigned. Cultural significance is often found in money today, but we find it in Christ. If you get on YouTube at all, you will find out that this is very true, because about half of all the younger influencers now, all they post about and talk about and sing about is what they have financially. Because we've been taught that either you have or have not. Either you are culturally significant because of what you possess, or you're not. We believe that our identity is wrapped up in Jesus Christ and in the freedom and the grace and the salvation that he provides for us, not whether our shoes are a different color than somebody else's. And when we begin to be generous, we realize that God can do more with our less. We begin to bless others. We begin to help others. We begin to find that they're strengthened through us. And then we also begin to realign our identity back to the way God intended it to be. God intended our identity to be found fully and wholly in whose we are, not in what we have. Your identity is larger than a 2x4 piece of plastic. You're not limited to what other people tell you you are limited to. Your identity is that you're a child of the King of Kings. And when we begin to give away, we begin to remember who we actually are. And we begin to remember that the God of the universe loves us enough that he came to this earth to be generous to us. And our identity begins slowly to realign when we begin to push away from my identity is what I have. Number 3 in your listening guides. I'm going fast today, guys. I'm going fast today, all right? We want to make a plan to be strategic with our money. Make a plan to be strategic with your money. Very, very few people are accidentally generous. Every now and then that happens. I told you last week, one time I accidentally wrote an extra zero on something when I was trying to pay online, and I accidentally gave an extra zero. And I noticed it for sure the next day. I was like, oh no. What? Wow, what a tip. Yeah. Yeah, here's a tip. Pay attention when you give these, Very, very few people are accidentally generous. The early church had a very strategic, very intentional, and very consistent plan for their generosity. And you do too. You do too. Your plan needs to be your plan. Do not fall into the trap of comparison. Do not fall into my plan I need to know what so-and-so gives so I can give just a little bit more. Or my gift isn't enough because I only have this much, they have this. Don't let comparison trap you. Comparison only leads to either pride or insecurity. It is always, always a trap. So let it be your plan. Also, your plan needs to be from what you have, not what you don't have. If you hear nothing else today, please hear me say this. I do not want you to go from here with a credit card and even though I don't have anything now, I'm just going to give and give and give and just hope that somewhere down the road, somehow when I'm swimming out by Benny's on the beach, I find a gold coin. That's not a giving strategy. Give what you have, not what you don't have. Your plan needs to be with a cross and a calculator in mind. Often, when we talk about generosity, we focus really hard on giving with the cross in mind. Or we focus really hard on giving with a calculator in mind. Your plan needs to involve both. And then your plan needs to be a discipleship tool for your family. No matter who controls the generosity in your family, it needs to involve the rest of the family, including your children, because you want your children to live a generous life free from the grip of greed. So that is why you have in your chair, I know a lot of you came in like, someone's saving seats. We weren't saving seats. These are actually a little tool to help you with your family or your friends or yourself to do that. Okay, these tools are to help you make a very strategic plan so that I don't just say something in 2 weeks that is emotional and you just emotionally give because, well, you really got me with that story and now I have nothing. That's not our plan for you. Our plan is to allow you the tools and the resources to make a very specific plan where you are a good steward, you are strategic, and you are generous. And I'd love for you to include your family in that. I'd love for that plan to be a conversation where you and your family sit down together at a table somewhere and talk about it.